Venice, city on the water. A place of beauty and romance that attracts millions of visitors every year. Just a few steps from the well-trodden tourist routes, there's a very different Venice, one populated by fascinating creatures. This film explores a Venice that few people ever see, a city that has a surprising double life. There are secret places and wild creatures in this watery world that most outsiders never discover. In the skies above, on the beaches, and in the canals are the true Venetians that live in every hidden corner of the city and the lagoon. Wild Venice is their home. The city of Venice is built on sand, in a lagoon between the sea and the land. First formed from river sediments, man has since created an ecosystem as fragile as Murano glass. Covering 550 square kilometers, it's one of the largest wetlands in the Mediterranean. Flamingos arrived at these Venetian waters quite recently. They crisscross the Mediterranean from North Africa to France's Camargue, to Sardinia, Tuscany, and now Venice. They feed on vegetable matter and small creatures they find in the mud of the lagoon. In the shadow of Venice, the lagoon is the northernmost flamingo habitat in Europe. They're here now, but in a few weeks, many will move off again to find richer pickings. Their takeoff may look clumsy, but once in the air, their flight is balletic and elegant. And before too long, they'll return to the safety of this lagoon, tucked between the sea, the city, and the Alps. The distant peaks helped form the lagoon. The mountain streams washed their rocky sediment towards the sea to make this habitat. Some of the lagoon's other birds are ready to leave. Dunlin, small waders, fed well in the rich mud. They rest on the wooden piles that support the whole of Venice. It's spring, time to head off to their northern breeding grounds. But the cormorants won't be lonely this summer. As the Dunlin fly away, other birds are flocking in. A bird's eye view reveals the full beauty of the lagoon. A labyrinth of uninhabited islands, intertwined canals, and swampy sandbanks. These marshy wetlands are known as the Barene. To survive here, plants need to like salt water and flooding. Natural arteries called gabi meander through the brackish gardens, keeping the lagoon alive. The same waters flow through the city. The curving streams between the islands became the magical canals of Venice. This is the city of bridges. Visitors are mesmerized by the romance of the canals and the ancient architecture, and often miss the smaller, wilder sights around them. These mussels are true Venetian natives. And now, in spring, they're breeding. The males spawn into the water, and each female produces up to 10 million eggs. Most of the larvae are eaten by other inhabitants of the canals, but up to 10,000 young shellfish will survive. Just beyond the city, colonies of birds are breeding too. But a hazard of urban nesting is constant disturbance. Little terns will quickly fly back to their eggs and can miraculously find their own nest scrapes in the crowded colony. Their cousins, the sandwich terns, lay their eggs directly onto the sand. If the terns are disturbed, they have little time for incubating their eggs. The sand won't keep them warm for long. And left out in the open, they could be an easy target for predators. Foxes are the biggest predators hereabouts. But from the air, he's easy to spot. The birds make it known he's not welcome anywhere near their nests. Foxes would rather not get their feet wet. Hunting in these swampy areas is a frustrating business. The grand leap disturbed another nesting bird. Now it's a question of following the scent. A welcome snack. Just beyond the sand dunes is the busy colony. In this mixed neighborhood, a pied avocet is brooding next to the sandwich terns. With nests so closely packed, there can be conflicting territorial claims with the common terns. But the avocet stands his ground. The Grand Canal is the main waterway of Venice, dividing the city in two. It follows the course of the ancient river Brenta that runs from the Alps all the way into the lagoon. It offers a journey through architectural history, starting in the 13th century. The banks of the Grand Canal have other surprises to offer, like Palazzo Malipiero's Rose Garden. Nestled between the buildings is a hidden paradise. Now owned by a modern-day countess, it has been restored to its full glory, and no detail has been left to chance. With the luxury of space in a city whose every square centimeter is exploited for maximum profit, it's also a sanctuary for many small animals. Every day, more than 50,000 tourists visit Venice. When the sun begins to set, the city's waterways empty. Venice belongs to the wild Venetians. Rats prefer to search for food in the cool night air. But they're not alone. Pine martins are hungry too, and rats are on their menu. Pine martins are welcome in the city as they're natural rat catchers. Agile, with a keen sense of smell, they can find and follow any rat. But they're endangered too. Since the rat population boomed, ironically, many martins have been killed by rat poison. The rat won the day, and the pine marten has to settle for dessert. Not such a sacrifice, as pine martens are omnivores. Both meat and veg are on their menu. And sometimes the vegetarian meal is an easier option. As the rat prepares to sleep, the city of Venice is beginning to wake up. The floating vegetable stalls are the first to move into action. Soon these silent waterways will become busy highways again. In the 18th century, over 8,000 gondolas navigated the Venice canals. Now there are only about 400 left. Life in Venice may be moving with the times. But one thing never changes. It dictates the daily rhythms of the city and the lagoon. Twice a day, the tide rises and falls as seawater washes in and out of the lagoon. The water level changes by up to 60 centimeters. Smooth lakes disappear into swampy wetlands, only to return hours later. Retreating water levels reveal a surprise. Strange islands that look like complicated water mazes. In fact, they're fisheries at the edge of the lagoon. known as the Valle da Pesca. They've been worked by the same families for generations, using a simple but ingenious method. Nets are lowered into the locks that span the water channels. In the springtime, the locks bar the way to the young fish that stream into the lagoon to feed. The fishermen raise the nets and catch the small swarming fish in their thousands. It's easy to scoop them out, but these fish are not for eating. The fishermen place them on the other side of the bars and so trap them in the channels. Here, the spring fish are held under perfect conditions until they grow big enough to harvest. In the autumn, when the fish try to return to the sea, they're simply netted again. This time, they don't get away. Kingfishers have a more dramatic technique. They catch up to 20 fish a day, but need even more if they have nests with hungry growing chicks. It takes enormous skill, but also violence. A sharp blow to the head stuns the fish. And when it stops wiggling, the kingfisher can turn it round without fear of it escaping. The scales and fins of the fish need to be in line. Now it's ready to swallow. These shallow, brackish waters at the edge of the lagoon are perfect hunting grounds for a kingfisher. But not every dive is successful. They'll snatch the odd insect in the air, but 95% of the kingfisher's catch must be made underwater. The cormorant has an easier life, as does the little egret. And some don't even get their feathers wet while hunting. There are plenty of fish in the lagoon, but they're not only found in the wetlands. These waters flow through the city too. And there are fish to be caught in the canals. Beneath the bustling jetties of the famous vaporettos or water taxis, wildlife flourishes. Even here, the little egret can fish where the water is deeper and turbulent. It's not easy to keep an eye on a moving target from a moving base. But persistence and patience pay off. 3 narrow inlets connect the lagoon to the sea. They're known as bocche, the Italian word for mouth. In spring, the fish travel into the lagoon because it's shallow, warm, and full of food. And in the autumn, they travel back out to the Adriatic Sea. The lagoon's fishermen understand the rhythms of the sea. But there was one phenomenon that remained a mystery for many years. When they cast their nets into the rich fishing grounds, they were torn to shreds. The fishermen believed that water spirits were grabbing their nets and named the area the Tenue, or Hold Fast. The Hold Fast was in fact a jagged reef, an unexpected and magical aquatic paradise. These unique natural rock formations are similar to coral reefs. They're home to all kinds of remarkable creatures. Serpent stars, or marine annelids. This precious area is now protected. Fishing is forbidden, diving strictly regulated. Even harvesting a shellfish delicacy like these canestrelli is banned. The city of Venice is lucky to have rich fishing grounds on its doorstep. The catch is seasonal, and in spring the fish are small. But the fishermen will go out, as long as they can find a buyer. Only the weather can hold them back. City and wetlands are both at the mercy of the elements. A storm is heading towards the lagoon. When rain-bearing clouds build up against the southern face of the Alps, and when warm southerly winds whip up the sea, water is driven into the lagoon, flooding the city and engulfing the swampland. This extreme high tide is known as aqua alta and can be disastrous for ground-nesting birds. Thankfully, it's rare in the springtime. It strikes more often in the autumn. Storms can vanish as fast as they arrive, and the limpid sunlight that Venice is so famous for bathes the city again. In early summer, Venice teems with tourists. The Bridge of Sighs is a popular attraction, but few visitors realize that real Venetian life is happening just a short distance away. In the Giardini, a spacious and peaceful city park, there are some surprising residents. This prehistoric-looking creature is an amorous green toad looking for a mate. After all, this is the city of romance. But for a toad, finding a partner in a city isn't always easy. Even a quiet park is full of danger and disruption. On the plus side, few of the park's visitors notice the presence of the toad, as it blends in so well with its surroundings. Another of the city's visitors is far more conspicuous. A stark contrast to the ancient buildings it comes to celebrate. and a danger to the fragile city. The toad at last finds a more secluded waterside spot. Soft light, gentle fountains, the perfect place to mate. Venice is full of secret places hidden away from the main tourist routes. A traditional gondola repair shop nestles between the city's Zattere and Dorsoduro districts. Craftsmen repair the boats in the peace of the backwaters. The tranquility also attracts some exotic-looking animals. Geckos are not native to Venice, but they've settled in well here. During the day, they'll sun themselves on warm stone. They're waiting for nightfall, when the insects they eat will emerge. And in the golden light, birds that hunt geckos settle in for the night. Terns fly back to the safety of the colony, and others enjoy a final bath. Evening always brings a measure of peace to the city. The Grand Canal is now very quiet, a perfect time for the gecko. Geckos have evolved specially adapted feet that make them excellent climbers. Their toes are covered in millions of tiny branched flaps with incredible adhesive power, so they can grip and climb the smoothest surfaces, even glass. The city is empty now. The Grand Canal is deserted. The evening's activity has passed to Venice's bars and restaurants. By the time the tourists are safely tucked up in their beds, the city is like a ghost town. Almost. A rat has ventured out to make the most of any scraps left behind. He must take care not to become a meal himself. Owls on the prowl. One little owl is distracted by bright lights. There's nothing here but fruit. No good for the owl. This house call hasn't paid off. Time to make a swift exit. The lucky rat will make it home tonight. Cormorants bask in the morning sun. The terns start fishing early. The colony is now a hive of activity. The first chicks have hatched. Exhausted from the effort of breaking out of the egg. Around them, the colony has turned into a busy Italian restaurant as the adults noisily deliver their food. The chicks blend in well with the sand. Their cries for food are a new and insistent sound on the beach. Their calls are echoed by the adults, who do nothing else but feed these demanding youngsters. It's hot and humid, and the lagoon is at its most beautiful. The hot summer months are the quietest for the fishermen. They take advantage of this time to mend their nets. They work and even sleep here, with spectacular views of the surrounding wildlife. About 8% of the lagoon's surface consists of islands. 20,000 people once lived on Torcello. Now only the cathedral tower remains. Burano is known for its colorful buildings. San Francesco del Deserto is home to a Franciscan monastery. The island of Madonna del Monte is being swallowed by the lagoon, but the ruins of its monastery still stand proud. Enchanted places like this are an ideal refuge for wild animals. And the island's ancient monastery has some new inhabitants. The ruins are the perfect place for kestrels to nest. The hungry chicks are nearly as big as the adults and almost ready to fledge. Feeding this brood is a full-time job for both parents. Finally, curiosity gets the better of the young birds and they start to emerge from their hiding place. The first nervous explorer is soon followed by a sibling. They wait cautiously on a ledge, while one of the adults watches from afar. Their mother returns with food, and the young kestrels jostle to get to the front of the queue. The keenest and the loudest chick is fed first. Soon the food parcels will stop. It's almost time for the young to leave the nest and fend for themselves. Not all of the lagoon is quite so peaceful. Venice's Lido, with its luxury hotels, is where the human bathers gather. But even here, you can find wild beauty and tranquility. In the Tenue, Venice's reef, one of nature's most delightful performances is in full swing. The squid's mating dance. The pair move together like synchronized swimmers as waves of rainbow colors pulse along their bodies. It's like an underwater version of the Venice Carnival, complete with face masks and disguises. Decorator crabs change their shape by attaching sponges and algae to their bodies. These bizarre disguises are excellent camouflage. The crabs creep past their neighbors and predators like living rocks from the seabed. The tern colony just beyond the city is flourishing. The chicks have fed well and are strong and healthy. The young birds are gathered in a creche, with 1 or 2 adults looking after them all. Today's lesson is elementary flight. But the teacher's demonstration is over in a flash. The young birds flap their wings to exercise their growing flight muscles, but they're not ready to take to the air yet. Before long, they'll be flying as well as their parents. The young kestrels are also preparing for takeoff. They bravely take the plunge and launch themselves into the air. Dropping from a height makes their first flights easier. Once in the air, they're in their element and can glide and flap back to safety. These first flights mark the end of their parental care. Now they have to find their own territory. One of the kestrels has made its way to the nearby island of Burano. It's unlike the remote nest site, but it still has everything the kestrel needs. Just like the ruins, the brightly colored walls offer protection. These birds are welcome visitors, and the people here seem happy to have a kestrel watching over them. Autumn has arrived, and the wetlands once again change color. A plant called glasswort is responsible for this blush of pink. It flourishes in the swampy salt marshes. The first autumn mists mark the end of summer. The bright, humid days give way to cooler, grayer hues. The sea and the sky seem to merge into each other. Now in September, the sea is generally calm. But from the autumn equinox, there are high tides. And sometimes, Venice floods. For now, the water is still and shimmers like liquid mercury. When the temperature drops, the beaches are finally too cold for tourists. Animals better equipped to bear the chill reclaim them. A hungry fox sniffs along the shore looking for food. The fox has an excellent sense of smell and can see well in the twilight. It has picked up a strange scent. Something smells good to eat. But quite where this food is hidden is a mystery. Crabs have been crossing the beach, leaving behind a number of trails, and the fox is very confused. Finally, it follows its nose and comes face to face with a crab. It's an unequal battle, but the crab has the advantage of armor and weapons. This meal is more trouble than it's worth. There must be easier pickings. The crab, dazed but victorious, moves off to a more secluded place. More crabs congregate on the shoreline looking out to sea. But just across the water, the residents of Venice are having a less comfortable time. The waters of the lagoon are creeping into the city. The autumn tides are getting higher, and water is seeping up through every available crack in the stones. The threat of acqua alta, the extreme high tide, is increasing every day. A combination of rising tides and the Scirocco winds cause this extreme event, and the rain just adds to it. Much of the city is only just above sea level, so there's very little to stop the floodwaters. This may look like a swimming pool, but it is in fact St. Mark's Square. Fortunately, this only lasts a few hours. Soft winter fog wraps the landscape like a blanket and brings the year to a close for Venice and its beautiful lagoon. The visitors have marveled at its sights, but many have missed the most fascinating wonders of all, the wild side of Venice. The city is empty now, but visiting season for the lagoon never ends. As one creature leaves, another takes its place.
A land of beauty and incredible contrasts. A forgotten and rarely seen wilderness. Rainy season and drought collide in an everlasting cycle. One of the most fertile places on the planet. Containing 10% of all animal species on Earth. Living in nature is always a struggle for existence. But these days, wildlife has to fight to survive in the face of habitat destruction and the spread of human influence. Thailand is known for its dazzling mega-city, Bangkok. Its exquisite cuisine. Saffron-dressed monks. Exotic beaches and a world-famous nightlife. Hardly anyone knows the hidden treasure and almost secret life of this old Asian culture, bordering Cambodia, Laos, Malaysia, and Myanmar. Thailand's warm climate and plentiful rainfall foster the growth of thick rainforests with abundant life. Animals are concentrated in the forested parts of the country, with 282 different mammal species and 925 bird species. This wealth makes Thailand a hotbed of biodiversity. Central Thailand is a natural, self-contained basin, often termed the Rice Bowl of Asia. Carved and nourished by 4 rivers that flow south from the northern hills before merging into the sea. It is a flat and fertile floodplain. The most conspicuous features of the country's terrain are the dramatic cliff-ridden mountains. They cover most of the northern country and extend along the Myanmar border on the west. In this hostile environment of rugged, rocky terrain, the cool temperature encourages the growth of flowers and ferns. Thailand is home to 10% of the world's flowering plants, with more than 27,000 different species, some of which survive and bloom in this harsh landscape. Their names read like poetry. Parrot flower, water lily, Chinese rose, but as poetic and beautiful as the flowers may be, they need help to survive. Birds, along with butterflies, bees, and other insects, play an important role in helping flowers to reproduce. The birds search for food, shelter, and nesting material. In turn, they carry the pollen from one flower to another, helping to pollinate the plants. The rainforest is full of life, noisy life. Each morning, upon awakening, the gibbon family announces its presence using their territorial hooting call that can be heard several kilometers away. The call warns intruding gibbons and other animals to stay out of their territory. Although gibbons are the smallest of the ape species, member of the primates, cousin to the gorilla, chimpanzee, orangutan, and ourselves, they are kings and queens of the forest canopy. Gibbons are omnivorous, eating a variety of foods. They forage during the day, eating figs, a variety of fruits, leaves, and flowers. But the white-handed gibbon is particularly fruitiferous, and its presence in a forest is a good indication of a plentiful supply of fruiting trees. In a forest glade, another mammal is looking for food, the black bear. The gibbons are curious and attentive, not too cautious. To be on the safe side, the brownish-furred female seeks comfort with her chosen black-furred male. The black bear will climb to rest, sleep, eat or lure enemies, but is much too slow for the gibbons. The masters of the canopy. Whether walking on their feet on the tops of the branches, or swinging from one branch to another in a form of locomotion known as brachiating. Luckily, there is honey, left over from the day before. Bears aren't choosy and will eat a wide variety of foods. Peace is soon restored to the forest canopy. The black bear is active during nighttime. But what do Asian black bears actually do at night? This is their secret. After a night with a lot of dancing, digging, scratching, and stretching, time for a well-deserved nap. The tropical forest is characterized by high rainfall, a minimum of 200 centimeters annually. Around 50% of all biotic species are indigenous to the rainforest. Where there is rain, there are waterfalls. Where there are waterfalls, there are rivers. Where there are rivers, there is life. Big life. Banteng. Wild cattle quenching their thirst in the river. A crocodile pretends it's asleep, just waiting for the next bite. A sambar deer family, the stag monitoring the young, locking antlers. The rarely seen and endangered tiger, looking for prey. Elephants cooling down their body temperatures. Wild pigs teaching their offspring to cross a river. The Asian wild water buffalo, weighing up to 1,000 kilograms, a ton, like a medium-sized calf, a challenge to any predator. In the darker undergrowth of the rainforest, restricted in many areas by poor penetration of sunlight, another kind of life is found. Small life. Like these shrimps looking for mating grounds. A myriad of insects, ants, larvae, microorganisms, and beetles. Many still unnamed, and thousands probably undiscovered. This is an alien world on the forest floor. Being a beautiful butterfly has its price. It's a titbit for the collared falconet. Brutally, it removes the head, eats it, and throws the wings back into the air. Individuals are born, hunted, killed, and eaten in an everlasting cycle of life and death. Dragonflies come in varied colors and shapes. Their bodies often blue, green, or purple. Their wings seem to shimmer as if made of transparent silver. Each of their two eyes are made up of 20 to 25,000 tinier eyes, allowing them to zero in on the flying insects that are their daily meals. The position during mating, known as a wheel formation, is unique to insects. The female may lay up to 100,000 eggs at a time, in or near water. After about 2 weeks, the eggs hatch and an immature dragonfly, a nymph, emerges. Once hatched, the nymph spends its time hunting and eating small fish or even members of its own family. It takes 6 months to 7 years for a dragonfly nymph to mature. When it's ready to metamorphose into an adult, it climbs out of water and up a plant to shed its final nymphal skin. Long before the dinosaurs walked the earth 300 million years ago, dragonflies took to the air. And now, after years in the water, yet another beautiful dragonfly is born. It will feed and mate, and then it will die. The archer fish. By squirting drops of water from its specialized mouth, the fish can knock down insects sitting on overhanging vegetation. They are able to hit their prey at distances of up to about 2 meters. Bang Mapa Karst Formation, a group of deep limestone caves. It's like a vampire's castle, home to strange underworld formations and rare, mysterious cave dwellers, like bats searching for evening prey. And the waterfall climbing cave fish, a sensation and still a mystery. This is the only place in the world where one can get a glimpse of these blind fish with fins almost like feet that allow them to climb up ledges. They have no eyes, and their bodies lack all pigmentation. Pink and white, slightly translucent, like ghosts. This is about as close as one can get to aliens on Earth. Another day in the forest canopy. Gibbons live in small monogamous families composed of a mated pair and up to 4 offspring. They mate for life, unlike most of the great apes. Since they are vulnerable to predators on the forest floor, they spend most of their lives in trees. They drink rainwater from tree holes, often by dipping a hand into the water and then slurping it up from their fur. There is no breeding season. Gibbons may copulate any day, and the female will come into estrus at any time of the year. Gibbon families form tremendously strong and emotional bonds with each other. A poignant picture of motherhood. The dusky langur is another canopy dweller. Like gibbons, the langurs spend most of their time in trees. They fear water and will cross no body of it, river, lake, or swamp. Normally, the dusky langur gives birth to a single offspring. Very rarely two, like this female, mother of two babies. A pair of twins waddling and jumping around. Annoying and adorable. When daylight starts to shimmer away, a giant shadow of doom from the underworld fills the sky. Clouds of thousands upon thousands of bats emerge from the caves to feed on small insects. When the night shift begins, different species take over. A night owl, various tree frogs, a civet, or as it is also called, a toddy cat, a snake, the peninsular pit viper. Tropical rainforests are home to many kinds of colorful birds. The red-breasted parakeets. A green magpie. Whiskered tree swift. Chinese pond heron and a fish eagle. A white-throated kingfisher, blue magpie, plain prinia, superstar of Bung Porapet Lake, the pied kingfisher. This boldly patterned black and white plumaged bird may watch for prey from a perch, as many other kingfisher species do. Then they dive into the water, creating a shower. Reappearing with its stabbed prey in its bill. More often, the pied may hover mid-air for up to a minute, taking its time to locate the perfect meal. The pied kingfisher is the largest bird capable of a true hover. When back on its perch, it tosses the fish into the air, catches it deftly, and makes sure to swallow it head first. Birds have 4 primary needs: food, water, shelter, and a place to raise a family. Almost like human beings. Like humans, they also design and build complicated individual constructions, homes for their intended and coming offspring. The black and red broadbill collects material for a bulky, untidy ball nest hanging from the tip of a branch. The hornbill seeks out a suitable cavity in a tree and uses clay and mud to seal it from predators. The Asian open-billed stork builds a rough platform of sticks, often on half-submerged trees. The great yellownape uses its beak to create larger holes for its nests. Baya weavers are known for their elaborately woven pendulous nests. These are created with a central nesting chamber. The highly complicated construction is made with long strips of paddy leaves, rough grasses, and strips torn from palm fronds. The olive-backed sunbird builds a hanging flask-shaped nest with an overhanging porch at the entrance. The outside is often untidy and decorated with dead leaves and seed cases. Unlike the home of its cousin, the Baya weaver, the nest of the Asian golden weaver is a messy structure. Once constructions are built and the chicks have hatched, a frenzied feeding begins. Endless days and nights finding prey for apparent infinite open and thankless mouths. Feeding the usual range of food, such as invertebrates, small animals, and fruit. The blue-bearded bee-eater, nesting in deep tunnels of mud, feeding their chicks, bees, and insects. It's not always easy to keep a nest clean. Small ants have swarmed from nowhere, causing itching and discomfort. The female blue-winged pitta calls for a helping hand, or beak. The male helps clean up by removing a sticky substance from the offspring's bottoms.
Kiles akata koa, wan
This remote Buddhist temple is home to a group of the largest bats in the world, the flying fox. They camp in big trees. There are hundreds, sometimes even thousands. During the day, they hang out by roosting in trees, wings wrapped around their body, squabbling noisily and fanning themselves when hot. Favored roost sites are used for many years, and the trees become stripped of bark and foliage by the bats' sharp claws that help them cling to branches. Flying foxes are social animals, roosting together in the tops of trees, mostly hanging upside down because this is more energy efficient. During the day, they spend hours on personal hygiene, licking and scratching themselves endlessly. It is likely that communal living comes at the cost of living among large numbers of external parasites. The temple camp is a base from which flying foxes make their day and nighttime foraging trips. When rain falls, they draw closer together in their camp, using their wings as umbrellas. A flying fox, penetrating the sky like a vampire from a Gothic novel. This is an underwater tropical forest, the Andaman Sea. Coral reefs, a true natural treasure. One quarter of the world's coral reefs lie in Southeast Asian waters. Each forms a complete ecosystem, the oldest and most productive ecosystems on Earth. The Andaman Sea is home to the most diverse collection of marine life in the world. Like this spotless firefish. A black-spotted toadfish. The painted flutemouth or trumpetfish. It lives on the seafloor, close to plants or corals for protection and shelter. A jellyfish, one of the most venomous ocean creatures with stings that might kill a human within minutes. But to the smallest fish in the sea, it forms a vibrating, protecting shield against outside predators. Another highly deadly species, the sea crate. The hawksbill turtle. While being omnivorous, it feeds on algae, sea anemones, and dangerous jellyfish. But different species of sea sponges are the principal food. At times, the appearance of water species may look weird. Sometimes, just small. Often, extraordinary. Like this octopus. An octopus has 8 arms, which trail behind it as it swims. It has 3 hearts, 2 for pumping blood to each of the gills, and a third for pumping blood through the entire body. For defense against predators, it uses color-changing camouflage. Within a second, it adjusts its colors: green, red, brown. Or even a mixture of colors until the background is matched. The whale shark is a graceful, slow-moving giant and the biggest fish in the world. The largest confirmed individual had a length of approximately 13 meters and a weight of more than 22 tons. Its mouth is large enough to fit a human inside, but luckily, it is a harmless filter feeder that eats only plankton and small fish. Above the sea, and not necessarily far away from tourist areas, a variety of seabirds can be seen. The great egret, wood sandpiper, black-winged stilts, grey heron, and a large group of Brahmini kites looking for prey in the salty water. Kites are often scavengers, foraging both over water and land, feeding on dead fish and crabs. But occasionally, they hunt live prey, such as hares or bats. When fishing, they don't dive. Prey on the water surface is snatched with their talons. At the intersection of land and sea, mangrove forests support a wealth of life and may be more important to the health of the planet than we previously realized. Mangroves provide nursery grounds for a wide range of microbes, invertebrates, and crabs. an alien world of remarkable creatures fighting to survive. The mangrove swamp ecosystem feeds fish and shrimps, wading birds, and the long-tailed macaque, or crab-eating macaque. Although the macaque feeds on crabs, it is also known to eat almost 200 different types of plants and fruits, helping the forest to regenerate and keep its fragile balance. The macaque knows exactly where to look for prey. Sometimes it even cleans off the mud before eating. A youngster seems to have invented its own fitness machine. Another youngster wants to join in. The inevitable fight that follows is quickly resolved by the alpha male. Long-tailed macaques are social animals. They live in groups of 15 to 30 individuals. The female gives birth to only one infant at a time. Their social structure and behavior are almost as complex as humans. Each group, the troop, is made up of a dominant alpha male, his harem of female monkeys, and their babies. Being strongly territorial, the gibbon family defend its boundaries, warding off fellow gibbons with vigorous visual and vocal displays. A male gibbon competitor has penetrated the alpha male territory in search of food. The alpha male, not only protecting his territory, but also his mate and newborn baby, frightens the intruder, chasing it away from his family's feeding grounds. Meanwhile, a female intruder sees a chance of getting a piece of the cake. Returning from his chase, the alpha male immediately goes after the new intruder. Another predator is climbing the fruitful fig trees, a binturong. Cautiously, the female gibbon tries to lure this Asian bearcat away. It is too big a handful for her, so she leaves this job to her mate. The male gibbon and the bearcat challenge each other's patience. Finally, the gibbon male decides to retreat, out of reach of the bearcat, only to scare away yet another intruder, the great hornbill. Finally, after a busy day, time for some family reunion in the forest canopy. But for some, freedom is a luxury. Extinction is widespread and rapidly depleting the rich tapestry and treasures of life on Earth. 140,000 species per year are at risk. Once the biodiversity of our planet is lost, it can never be brought back again. As on other continents, Asian wildlife is depleted by illegal hunting and trading. In this marketplace, people have gathered to sell exotic birds, illegally captured in the rainforest, sold for the highest bid, and here participating in a bird singing competition. This is freedom. Wildlife still thrives in the wild. Colorful birds, playful monkeys, mating deer, the strange underwater octopus, butterflies, gibbons, jacana chicks, and the largest animal on Earth, the elephant. These species, and many more, have taken billions of years to form. Hopefully, we will let them stay a little longer in this fragile and remote world. The blue, white, and green gem in the solar system. Our planet, our one and only home, the Earth.